Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. Today is Monday, January 27th, 2020. Thank you so much for joining us. I have tried very diligently over the weekend to get video back up to you. And this morning it was quite the joke. It was on one computer as I tested to stream, it would stream video, but no audio. And then I switched computers, said, let me try a different computer. It would stream audio, but no video. And so I said, you know what? I think that this is the way of the universe protecting me from the things that I would have said live today, particularly about Kobe Bryant and why I am done with the left. And I have an opportunity this morning to do it and edit it and keep all of the most problematic things that I'm going to say off of the recording. That said, I've got a lot of shit to say this morning. I can't say that I was a fan of Kobe Bryant in terms of basketball. I'm a Miami Heat fan in terms of who I really rock with. LeBron James for the time he was there and Dwayne Wade. Those are my guys. But I'm a fan of humanity, and I'm a fan of compassion and empathy. And I'm also very sensitive to the scale of sorrow that people feel when we as a collective community mourn and are grieving. And I'm sensitive to the fact that it wasn't just Kobe Bryant who died, but it was his daughter, his 13-year-old daughter, along with another family, a mother, a father, and their daughter. And so I'm extremely sensitive to the fact that there are so many people hurting this morning in a way that I would never want to feel. But because I have that level of empathy and compassion, it moves me very deeply. And because I see this performative woke grandstanding of self-righteousness every single time someone who has done something wrong in their past or even been accused of something wrong in their past. And I see people who see it as their responsibility to gallivant across social media and condemn the mourning, right? It's one thing for you to have your take and for you to use your space to say what you want to say about what you want to say. It's another when you feel so compelled that you go into the mentions of people, the social media mentions, because that's where we go to collectively mourn. Don't just say, oh, it's social media. No, we are on social media to collectively mourn something and somebody, right? The thing that I'm mourning more than anything else, in addition to the individual lives, I'm grieving because of so many other people grieving. It's called empathy. And if you can't get off of your high horse for 1 second to be empathetic to the fact that there are millions of people who are grieving this morning, then you are a cancerous pile of shit. And it is that is the reason why I can't rock with the left anymore. It is performative. It is self-righteous. Now, I know some of you are like, Ben, what the hell are you talking about? We didn't even know what was going on. Everyone knows that Kobe Bryant died yesterday. And so many people felt that it was their self-righteous duty to stand in judgment of his past. And because that judgment is oftentimes performative and selective, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it with people who feel like this is a time for us to have a class critique because here's what he was rich. And while you're going to just be mourning all these rich celebrities, you cancerous pile of human excrement. See, what I have had to do over the years because I want to be a better person and because it's kind of a requirement on the left. But more than that, I want to be a better person. I have removed ableist language as much as I could from what I say publicly and a lot of times privately. I have removed misogynistic language as much as I can, most certainly publicly, and except for times of frustration, will I'll say like, "Oh, son of a," I've removed it from my vernacular. I never really dealt in racist language, never really dealt in transphobic language. I certainly dealt in homophobic language, but I removed that out of my vernacular. But because of that, the only thing I got left when I get angry is violence and rage, violent language and rage, and wishing that the universe would cause tremendous sorrow and pain on these people so that they can understand what it's like to hurt, because they clearly have no understanding of what it's like to be in pain, to grieve. Because if you had a moment of humanity in any part of your body, if you had an ounce, an inkling of emotion and compassion in your body, you would not take the opportunity when millions of people, this is not about Kobe Bryant, you fatuous scumbags. It's about what he meant to so many people. And what these people want to do is, because Kobe Bryant had been charged and went to trial over rape allegations and got found not guilty, what they want to do is they want to rob everyone of their opportunity to mourn, because they don't feel like Kobe Bryant is someone worthy of mourning. We should not grieve because he wasn't a good person. There are people in the universe who are not good. There are people who we can decidedly agree that the world is better because they're dead. Kobe Bryant is not one of those people. Okay? Who makes that decision? Well, I think it's the collective consciousness. I think it's the collective body, because the collective body of humanity across the globe, or even if we just localize it here in the United States, we decide collectively who we are going to grieve and who we're going to be like, yep, kind of glad you're dead. You have every right to disagree with it. And 9 times out of 10, I am completely capable of passing by everyone's criticism and just minding my business. You're not watching. There's no video to this, but you don't see me doing the motion of scrolling on my phone. I'll scroll right past it because you have the right to say it. You have the right to feel it. You have the right to champion whatever it is that you want to champion. But when you make it a point to attack someone else's grief, going into their social media mentions, right? And then condemning people because they don't condemn who you condemn. Canceling people because they don't cancel who you cancel. Well, who the hell made you God? Who the hell made you so perfect that you could sit in the seat of judgment over all of us and tell us who we should like and who we shouldn't like? It is so pervasive on the left that people on the right, Nazis, people who we consider Nazis, they were getting it right. They were getting it right, saying, wow, you're really using this as an opportunity to attack the grief, because they're not going to admit, right? People like Clara Jeffrey, I can't remember her last name. I blocked like 200 people last night. But what they're not going to admit is that they don't want anyone else. See, it's not just about us. Oh, we need to remind you of the trial that he went, the allegations. No, you don't post that as a reminder. You post that because you want the people who are grieving to not grieve. And you want to look as though you are the epitome of woke. You. And so because I don't have the easiness of misogynistic language that I can use, or, what ableist language. I don't use those type of things. But what I will tell you is that the world would be a better place without you, and you could decide how you want to rectify that. The world would be. We don't have time. Oh, Ben, that's mean. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I am not apologizing for it. I will not apologize for it, because why do we have time? We do not have time. There's so much evil in the world. Do you think we have time to sit back and entertain people who want to lecture us about who we grieve. I could not even grieve my friend Erica Gardner because she had a tweet back in the day, or a series of tweets for that matter, that were homophobic. And yet she died, literally gave her life for the cause, for the movement, for liberation of all people, including gay people, LGBTQ people. And she just so happened to not have rid herself of the homophobic language. But because she had not rid herself of the homophobic language, all of a sudden, nobody wanted us to grieve her. The world is a better place without that type of spirit in it, that type of personality in it, that type of condemnation and refusal to give anybody. There's no grace in that. There's no mercy in that. There's no rehabilitation. Michael Vick, got found guilty, did his time, came out and became an advocate against the very thing that he went in for. But it's not enough. It's not enough for these scum buckets. It's not enough for these cancerous leeches of society, because they want to utterly destroy you and to have you homeless. And so I wish the same thing on you that you wish on other people. That's it. I don't wish you harm, but if you have harm in your heart towards other people, then I hope that you get what you wish. If you want somebody else's life destroyed, then I hope that comes to you. That is my earnest, sincere prayer to God, the universe, that people who seek harm for other people and don't give any opportunity for rehabilitation, for correction, for mercy and grace, I hope you get it. I hope you receive everything that you're dishing out. One final note, you will notice that there is a racial dynamic to this, and I don't care what anybody says. David Bowie raped so many girls, and yet not a single one of these people, not a single one of them, when he died, tried to lecture America about mourning the death of him, of David Bowie. There is most certainly a racial dynamic to this. This country is so much less forgiving of black people than any other group, hands down, black men and black women. But the last group at the bottom of the totem of who's going to receive mercy and forgiveness and be allowed to be rehabilitated and given a second chance would be black men. Black women a close second. So I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I'm not apologizing for anything else. I cannot deal with this. I will not. I don't want to be associated with this. If this is what you do when a person that, and listen, it has nothing to do, again, I don't care what you think about Kobe Bryant. What do you think about all the people that are mourning them? And if you think less of these people who are grieving this morning because they're grieving somebody you don't think they should grieve, then you are a pompous, fatuous, cancerous disease in this country, particularly for the left. You are the cause. You're the reason. This is not normal behavior. This is not what normal human beings with an ounce of empathy do. This is the type of thing that Westboro Baptist Church does when they go to protest funerals. This is what you look like. This is what you sound like. For those of you doing it, for those of you who are not doing it, please tolerate the rest of the show. I apologize to you, my audience. So again, I want to emphasize my anger, my rage is not about Kobe. It's about the complete disregard for the millions of people who are mourning him and have their grief compounded by the fact that his daughter died with him. And then to have that grief compounded by the other, apparently there was 9 people on board total. So 7 other people, including a family of 3 who died with them. And in a moment of collective grief in this country, like it was a moment for us to all be human for a minute, for a brief minute. we could all tap into the humanity of grief and our own mortality and the fact that we all are going to die eventually and we all were there. And to have this crowd of leeches like they did with my girl, Erica Gardner, I'm upset. I'm upset that I wasn't more belligerent and just rained down all of the most vitriolic language I could on the heads of people who thought that the thing to do was to come confront me because of my grief for her because she had homophobic language. People are screwed up. Okay. We're all screwed up. And in the real world, you're surrounded by people who still use ableist language, homophobic language, transphobic language, racist language. They all do this. And you know what? They aren't being canceled because they're not online to give a shit. Or they're not on Twitter. They're not online for that. They're not going to change you can control your environment. No one's lecturing you on what you want to put in your space. If you don't want to put people who like Kobe Bryant, and you don't want to include them in your space because of the rape charges, that is 100% your prerogative. But what you cannot control is the fact that damn near everybody else in this country, probably 95% of this country, straight out grieved yesterday and still grieving today. You can't control that. And that's what makes them mad. Let me change this from you to them. Right? Because it may not be you in my audience, and I don't want you to feel like this is targeted towards you. So people who don't, they want to control, rather. They want to control who gets to be grieved. Especially if that person doesn't fit into their perfect worldview. Now, that's your prerogative for your space. That is their prerogative for their space, but that is not their prerogative for our space. And they attempt to rob us of these moments. And then someone said, well, where was this energy for Don Imus? Don Imus was collectively despised. I don't think, who grieved Don Imus? See, you can't be jealous of who's loved and who's not. Right? And this is what the cancel culture is really about. Okay, I'm doing my best not to turn into a reactionary, because there's a whole lot of stuff in this narrative that actually should be addressed. And I know I see some particular friends in my mind. They're like, Ben, no, don't go there. Don't become a reactionary. Don't turn into one of those guys. It's tempting. It's so tempting because the cancel culture is cancerous because it wants to control who has a platform, but also who is loved and who's not. If they could dictate, if these people, if the adherents of the cancel culture, the parishioners of the cancel religion, if they could control who was beloved and who's not, then the only people that would be beloved are people they approve of. If I become a reactionary, trust that it's going to be all based in good faith. And that, you know, and I am so, okay, F it. Here we go. I like Joe Rogan. Okay. I have to confess, I like Joe Rogan. Well, Ben, he uses transphobic, he's a transphobe. Yeah, you know what? He actually also has said some pretty racist things that I'm like, oh, Joe, like if you said that in my face, I probably have to pop him in the throat. And, you know, he's a little diesel compared to me. So I'd have to hit him across the head with something, right? Yeah. So yeah, he's got some problematic stuff. And it's not just anything that's homophobic. It's not just the transphobia. It's also some racist stuff. But I like Joe Rogan. I'm sorry. I like Dave Chappelle. I love Dave Chappelle. Never been able to say it on my show because you know what y'all like to do? They like to do, not y'all. They like to cancel people who don't cancel the people they think should be canceled. Fuck you. No, seriously, you don't have the right. You cannot tell me who I have to cancel. You can't tell me who I cannot listen to. Hell, I listen to Rush Limbaugh. You think I'm not going to listen to Joe Rogan? Dave Chappelle? And this is not, I just like them. I do. And I have a hard time not liking them simply because you think I shouldn't. Not just a hard time. I'm completely incapable. Now, what I will do is just keep my problematic opinions to myself. But when we have a day like yesterday, when hundreds of millions of people, right? There's a couple, 327 million people in America. I guarantee you 300 million of them were hurt yesterday. And when that many people are mourning, and you have these self-righteous, cancerous, malignant pieces of shit going around the country lecturing us about who we are mourning, then I no longer feel like there's any value to me withholding my problematic takes and opinions, because what good does it do when it's never good enough? What good does it do for us to put in our best effort to be compassionate, our best effort to be mindful, our best effort to just be, to go the extra mile to make sure that we're inclusive on gender, to make sure that we're inclusive to non-gender, non-binary, right? To be inclusive of or exclusive of rhetoric, of ableist rhetoric. Like we do our damn best to do these things, but it's never good enough. Never. Because if I don't cancel who you tell me to cancel, then you cancel me. Then fine. My earnest hope is that none of you are patrons because I got to keep the show going. But whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I like Joe Rogan. You know why I like Joe Rogan? I like Joe Rogan because he's got compassion, man. Like I've seen clips of Joe Rogan that makes me want to jump through the computer and choke him. And then I've seen clips of Joe Rogan that shows me that he is not the alt-right. He might be a conduit to the alt-right, but he is not the alt-right. And just like he was a conduit to the alt-right, he has now become a conduit to Bernie Sanders. More importantly than that, there is a level of humanity. Okay. I was going to do this entire episode without any media, but I have to show you better than I can tell you. You could show me a problematic clip of Joe Rogan. Absolutely. But guess what? Before I play this clip of showing him where he was good, let me tell you this about America. America is screwed up. There are more people why do you think he has the most popular podcast in the world? It's because there are more people who think like him than don't. Or there are more people who maybe they don't think like him 100%, but 50% of the time they think like him. And they just appreciate having an outlet of someone who's going to say something that's problematic, because the rest of us are biting our tongues. The rest of us wouldn't dare tread on things. We don't share our 100% opinion, because all of the cancel culture is sitting there ready to pounce. Oh my gosh. You think Michael Vick should be accepted back into society? You're canceled. Kiss my ass. Oh boy. It's a good thing I didn't do live this morning, because I've had to edit out so many. But I will pat myself on the back. In all of my rage, I have not said anything homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic, anything like that. Right? I haven't had to edit any of that out. What I have had to edit out is suggesting that people do, all kinds of things to themselves. So I'm glad I didn't go live this morning. This is all that matters to me at the end of the day. I don't separate people based on the good that they do or the bad that they do. I separate them based on their humanity, right? Their relationship to the broader humanity. I definitely don't separate people based on the bad things that they say and the bad or the good things that they say, because I've had people say nothing but good things who turn out to be the worst people I have ever dealt with in my life. I have dealt with people who have the cancel culture language to perfection. They will never be canceled, but they're evil and they do harm. That's how I judge people. I don't judge people based on their past. I don't hold anything to people based on their past, because I mean, we'll do it politically, but understand it's political, right? Understand that it's 100% a game in order to try to get a political advantage, and respect it as that, because that's all it is, right? Or disrespect it as that, like, denounce it, whatever, but it's going to be done, and it's a weapon, it's a tool that's used all the time that I will use. But in terms of actually seeing somebody as a human being, I don't hold their past against them because hell, I don't need people to hold my past against me. Don't get me wrong. It's not particularly bad, but it ain't perfect. None of us are. I judge people based on their humanity and their compassion. And that's why I can't cancel Joe Rogan, because I have always seen something there. And this clip actually demonstrates what I've seen.
You were in the presence of a woman who came over here from Guatemala, and she's poor and she's starving, and they're taking her baby away, and she's wailing and screaming from a primal place in her DNA that the one thing she loves more than anything is being taken away. A baby.
Yeah.
If that doesn't freak you the fuck out, you're not a part of the team, man. You're missing it. You're missing it. What are we here for? We're here for 100 years of whatever. That's what we're here for. If you want to spend 100 years saying, hey, she should have fucking broke the law, I don't want you on the team. You're an asshole, right? And I don't give a fuck if you're right or left. I don't care if you're religious, or I don't care if you're an atheist. If that's what you support, you're an asshole, and we don't want you on our team. Okay? So, but if you agree with certain economic policies that I don't agree with, and we could have a discussion about it, we could figure out why you agree. And Democratic socialist, whether I agree with her or not, and I don't know if I do or don't. I bet I agree with her on a lot of things. I think education should be free. I think we should figure out a way. If we could pay for bombs, we could pay for schools. I think this idea that everybody should have health care, it's a great idea. Who the fuck wants people to not be healthy? Who wants people to be hurt and not be able to fix it? Are you really saying that struggling people should have to pay exorbitant amounts of money to get fixed when we could maybe chip in and help members of our team? That's stupid. Fill it up. Figure it out yourself. I had to. You got lucky, bitch. You got lucky you don't have leukemia. You didn't break both your legs when you were 18. Your parents are dead. Right. You got lucky, piece of shit. There's some people on our
I'm telling you. I had to play that whole clip. I cut out a little bit in the middle, but I had to play it because you either have a level of humanity at the core of you or you don't. That's how I separate people. I don't separate people based on the bad things that they say, because you know what? We are all groomed in this society where misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and racist language is pervasive. It's pervasive. And it is a constant work, misogynistic language as well. It is a constant work to undo the programming that most of us, we get into this podcasting space about 25, 30. And I got in at 35. Jesus Christ, I'm old. Old as shit. But anyway, most of us, we either are up to the challenge of deprogramming or problematic politics, or we're not. But problematic politics is not, I'm sorry. And again, this is not to say that I agree with Joe Rogan, just like he was talking about AOC. He's not going to agree with AOC on everything, and that's fine. But I don't agree with Joe Rogan on probably 60% of the stuff that he says. But I see that there was something redemptive there, that he could be redeemed, that he could actually be convinced. And guess what? Bernie Sanders convinced him. Bernie Sanders convinced him. Bernie didn't change anything to get that endorsement. I don't think that I think they should have thought this through and not put out that advertisement, celebrating it or whatever the case. Fine. Okay. I just think the main reason I don't think Bernie should have done that is not because Joe Rogan is problematic. It's because it was bad. It was stupid politics, right? If you want to know where I put my principles aside, it's when we have to play Machiavellian politics. Machiavellian politics, real politic. Of course, Bernie Sanders shouldn't have put that out. He should not have put that out because you knew it was going to be used against you. But I don't think that he should not have put it out because Joe Rogan is problematic. No, not at all. Because I don't listen to Joe Rogan. But when a good clip of Joe Rogan comes around, I'm probably going to be saying amen 90% of the time in that one clip. And then when a bad clip comes along, I'm going to jump in his mentions on Twitter and I'm going to ream him a new one, if he ever sees it. Right? That's just real life. That's real life. And the left is not real. I'm sorry. The left is not real. Not this iteration of the left, not 2020 left, not this cancel culture, cancerous culture. It is not the real. It is not the real world. It is not real life, because you cannot operate like this. First of all, the people who are sitting in the seat of judgment, they themselves need mercy and grace and rehabilitation. Y'all heard the clip of the woman, of the white anchor on MSNBC yesterday who said, the LA niggers. And she got online and said, I'm sorry, I accidentally said the LA knackers. Okay, now some misogynistic language almost came out there, but I caught myself. How do you know, she's probably the perfect example of someone who would gladly console Joe Rogan, and you gonna slip up and say nigger on goddamn international television. The same people who are trying to force us to cancel everybody, they themselves are problematic. And what am I saying? I'm saying all of us are screwed up. Every single one of us have made mistakes. Every single one of us have to be deprogrammed in one form or fashion. But what I'm tired of doing and I'm no longer going to do is have any regard for people who tell me what I can. No, if you ever come and try to tell me who I have to cancel or who I cannot grieve, I have nothing left that I can say because I have deprogrammed myself, but some pretty violent rhetoric with regards to what you should go do with yourself and to yourself. Now, somewhere in this episode, I'm going to have to lighten the load a little bit so I can do this patron party. But I just had to get that off my chest first. So I guess now is as good a time as any for the patron party. I feel like a load has been lifted off.
Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.
All right. I think I finally got all of that heavy burden off my chest. Let's rock and roll and talk about some new patrons. Thank you so much to our newest patrons. Welcome aboard, Mr. RGP. Thank you for becoming a patron. Very special thank you to Philip Cole for increasing your pledge, doubling your pledge. You rock. Special thank you to Foosballs of Fire. Thank you for becoming a patron. And welcome back. I know you used to be a patron back in the day. Also, very special thank you to Duncan Secor for becoming a patron. Very special thank you to Janet Santos for becoming a patron. Very special thank you to Eric Johnson for becoming a patron. And Duncan Secor again. All right, we got to figure out what's going on. He regularly becomes a patron. I guess he just wants to hear his name. Duncan. Welcome aboard. Man, hey, Duncan. We appreciate you. Duncan. All right. Is that the end of the show today? I don't know that that's the end of the show, but I will say this. Too long didn't read. If you don't respect the person who died, respect the people who are mourning. I should tweet that out. That's actually pretty good. If nobody's mourning Antonin Scalia because he was pretty much a piece of shit and the bane of America's existence, the progressive side, and then most people are like, don't have like an emotional attachment to them, then do what you want to do. But what you don't do is go into the circle of people who actually are mourning him or did mourn him and tell them that they should stop. Right? And I'm sorry, you don't control how wide the net is of people who are mourning and grieving. Right? Nobody mourned Don Imus because he was a piece of shit. But his family, I'm sure his grandchildren probably were broken. Do you think we're going to take our message to them that their granddad was a piece of shit? No. We'll keep it in our circles. So I'm not telling you that you can't have criticisms of people, but what I'm telling you is that you are a pompous, fatuous, cancerous piece of shit when you feel like your job is to try to lecture and dictate who can and cannot be grieved to the grieving. How uncompassionate of you. How utterly just evil of you on the day when people are grieving you, and because you don't want them to grieve. It's not about remembering what they did wrong and their full legacy. Well, we have to take into context the complexity of their legacy. No, what you're doing is you don't want them to grieve. And so you insert yourself into the space so that you can lecture them. Enough of that. So much so that I can't win. I can't I can't survive that test. If that's the threshold, then count me out. Do not count me amongst you. Most of you probably started counting me out a long time ago, but I'm just going to kind of expedite it. I don't want to be associated with you, with them. You, the audience. I know you probably feel me. You probably with me. But those people, in the name of what? To be associated with no. Cancel culture. When your cancel culture cancels all of your compassion for the hurting and the grieving, everybody is screwed up. Everybody, every single one of us. And the reason Joe Rogan's show is so popular is because most of the world thinks like him, but specifically America, most of America thinks like him. And thank God that a guy who has so many problematic takes, thank God at the core of him, there's a strand of humanity that separates him, that literally makes all of the difference between him being the alt-right and being redeemable. Like the humanity. And I see more humanity in Joe Rogan than all of those people who ran around the internet yesterday and today and tomorrow just in their righteous self-righteousness to lecture grieving people. There's more compassion in Joe Rogan than all of them. And yet they over there are telling us we have to cancel Bernie Sanders because he didn't cancel Joe Rogan. And you know what? Here's the final thing I will say to my audience who I respect, who I appreciate, to my patrons who literally the first of the month, I need you to still be there so I could pay the bills. And I need you and I respect you and I love you. But you also know that I set all that up to say, if you don't like it, well, feel free to cancel me. Because at the core of me is compassion and humanity first. And even when I see it in people that you don't like, it doesn't mean that I'm wrong.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.